Hi everyone, this is Dr. Marilyn Tournay, and I am happy that you guys are joining me in our first video lecture. So we're going to start with Chapter 1, and as you can see here, I've given you a copy of what the book looks like, and Chapter 1 goes over the study of change, which that's basically what chemistry is, and this chapter really goes over the basics, the stuff that we will basically use in chapters 1 through 10. So let's get started. So I usually like to begin my class by asking my students how many of you have taken chemistry before. And you know, if we were in class, a lot of you would raise your hands, a lot of you wouldn't. But for those of you that wouldn't raise your hand, I would argue that all of us actually experience chemistry every day. We don't notice it, we might not even realize it, but chemistry is all around us all the time. You know, chemistry is a very modern science, but it does have very ancient roots. Chemistry, is a tool that helps us understand the world around us. I've shown some pictures here. You could see that, with all these things, we might not notice, but it's chemistry going on. Frying an egg, for example, brushing your teeth, washing your hands. Your DNA is made up of chemistry. The energy that we get from power plants requires chemistry. So everything. I'd like to be a little bit biased sometimes, but everything revolves around chemistry. So let's get a little formal. The actual definition of chemistry is the study of matter and the changes that it undergoes. So I mentioned that, chemistry is experienced by everyone every day, but in the same manner, chemistry is used by a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. So there's a lot of different ways to perform chemistry. So we consider it one of the central sciences. Now, even though there's many people and many different disciplines using chemistry, even including the social sciences use chemistry, but even though there's so many people using it, they employ different variations of what is called the scientific method. Now, scientific method is a systematic approach to doing research. So you have to become familiarized with what the scientific method is. I think that's very important. The scientific method is discussed in section 1.3 of your book. Section 1.3 also discusses what a hypothesis, a law, and a theory are. It would be prudent for you to familiarize yourself how to classify certain statements as a theory, a law, or a hypothesis. For example, ask yourself, does a hypothesis always lead to the formulation of a law? That is something that you should be able to answer. Another good question would be, is the scientific method a rigid sequence of steps in solving problems? No, it's not. It's actually, the scientific method is something that can be moved depending on what outcomes you have during your experiment. So it's stuff like that that you need to be able to recognize if you were to see it in an exam. Section 1.4 talks about the classifications of matter. Now, matter is anything that occupies space and has mass. Matter includes things that are easily distinguishable, such as things that we can see or touch, such as a TV, another person, water, but it also includes things that are a little bit trickier to classify, such as air. Sometimes we can't really see or feel air, but it is there, and it does have matter. So matter can be subdivided into substances and mixtures. So substances is simple. It's just something that has a definite constant composition. For example, table sugar. Table sugar has a constant composition. Gold, oxygen, those things like that are considered substances, whereas mixtures are something that is a combination of two or more substances. So for example, air is a combination of many gases. A soft drinks, your Coca-Cola is a combination of sugar and water and other things. So those are the differences between that. So substances can be further subdivided into elements and compounds. Now, elements we're going to talk about in great detail throughout the semester, and most of you already know where I'm going with this. It's the periodic table. So the periodic table currently has 118 elements that we've identified. So what is an element? It's something that cannot be separated into simpler substances by chemical means. All right, so lots of different elements. We have hydrogen and argon. Now, compounds are basically composed of atoms of two or more elements. Okay, they're chemically united in certain proportions. So compounds are something like water is made up of two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen, whereas carbon dioxide is made up of one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen. So those are compounds. Compounds are made up of elements. Section 1.5 goes over the three states of matter, and here I'm showing you a solid, a liquid, and a gas. Now, you will be responsible to be able to distinguish between these three states of matter, and you will also be responsible for knowing how to distinguish between chemical and physical properties of matter, and that is discussed in section 1.6. That is it for this video module. Please tune in to the other parts of this chapter, as this was only a brief introduction.